He's back, 6:38 in the morning, September 1st. It's a brand new month. Coffee cheers for the morning coffee family. And this morning, last few days, right when I wake up, I sit down, make some coffee, sit down and I read this book. And the book that I'm reading it's called Daily Rituals. It's a compilation of small biographies by a guy named Mason Curry. I read it before. I talked about it on my blog. One of my favorite books of all time. What it does is it just goes through just tons of different artists, writers, mathematicians, all kinds of interesting people, poets, and scientists. And it goes through their daily rituals and what they did on a daily basis, how they got their work done, what their morning routine was like, what they did in the afternoon and what they did at night. It's fascinating to read. And I read it, like I said, a few years ago at this point. But I pulled it out of the bookshelf the other day and I started reading it again. And the first one that I read was not today, it was yesterday. Maybe day before yesterday. But the first one that I opened it up to, and I had a marker in the book to remind me of this guy. I forgot why I made the marker, but when I opened the book and read this chapter, I know why I marked it, because it's fascinating. So I'm going to tell you about this guy. I'm going to read the whole thing because you have to hear the whole thing. There are many, many more. I might do more of these. But this entry is about a guy named Paul Erdos. Erdos. He was a mathematician, born in 1913, died in 1996. If I'm butchering his name, I apologize. I've actually never heard of him before this book. But now I want to go and look him up and learn everything about the guy, because listen to this. Erdos was one of the most brilliant and prolific mathematicians of the 20th century. He was also, as Paul Hoffman documents in the book, the man who loved only numbers. He was a true eccentric, a mathematical monk who lived out of a pair of suitcases, dressed in tattered suits, and gave away almost all the money he earned, keeping just enough to sustain his meager lifestyle, a hopeless bachelor who was extremely, perhaps abnormally devoted to his mother, and never learned to cook or even boil his own water for tea, and a fanatic workaholic who routinely put in 19-hour days, sleeping only a few hours per night. Erdos liked to work in short, intense collaborations with other mathematicians, and he crisscrossed the globe seeking fresh talent, often camping out in colleagues' homes while they worked on a problem together. One such colleague remembered an Erdos visit from the 1970s. He said he only needed 3 hours of sleep. He'd get up early and write letters, mathematical letters. He'd sleep downstairs. The first time he stayed, the clock was set wrong. It said 7 o'clock, but it was really 4:30 a.m. He thought we should be up working, so he turned on the TV full blast. Later, when he knew me better, he'd come up at some early hour and tap on the bedroom door and say, "Ralph, do you exist?" The pace was grueling. He wanted to work from 8 a.m. until 1:30 a.m. Sure, we'd break for short meals, but we'd write on napkins and talk math the whole time. He'd stay a week or two, and then you'd collapse at the end of his visit. It says Erdos owed his phenomenal stamina. Get ready for this. Erdos owed his phenomenal stamina to amphetamines. He took 10 to 20 milligrams of Benzedrine or Ritalin daily. Worried about his drug use, a friend once bet Erdos that he wouldn't be able to give up amphetamines for a month. Erdos took the bet and succeeded in going cold turkey for 30 days. When he came to collect his money, he told his friend, "You showed me I'm not an addict, but I didn't get any work done. I'd get up in the morning and just stare at a blank piece of paper. I have no ideas, just like an ordinary person. You've set mathematics back 1 month." After the bet, Erdos promptly resumed his amphetamine habit, which he supplemented with shots of strong espresso and caffeine tablets. A mathematician, he liked to say, is a machine for turning coffee into theorems. A mathematician, he'd like to say, is a machine for turning coffee and amphetamines into theorems. I love that. Andy Warhol's next. It's got his story next. It's a fascinating book if you've never heard of it. I'll link it in the description. I've read it many times, recommended it many times. I bought a copy for like 5 or 10 people in my life so far. So I love it, man. And what it shows me when I read these, when I originally read this book about these people that are now respected as the geniuses of their age. You know, most of them didn't get rich and famous. Well, most of them got rich, but their names aren't as well known as someone like Kanye West, you know, or George Bush, you know, or someone who's really in the mainstream. These guys, like mathematicians, poets, most of them I don't know anything about. The names don't even ring a bell. Maybe I heard them mentioned sometime by an artsy friend of mine. But what it goes to show is that these highly respected geniuses were madmen and madwomen. And some of these poets and authors and teachers and mathematicians and scientists and inventors, they would be considered crazy people by normal society standards. So when I read this, it was actually really comforting, because I'm a kind of a weird guy too, and maybe you do some weird stuff too. Maybe you work obsessively, maybe you drink way too much coffee, maybe you think too much, maybe you write a blog and have a YouTube channel and do a bunch of social, maybe you're like really infatuated with painting or making music, and people think you're a weirdo. But what I'm saying is, this is evidence that being a weirdo is okay. In fact, it's almost a requirement to do something great. Like, I'm of the belief now that you can't really do something great unless you're a little bit crazy or a lot crazy. It's the lunatics, the crazy people, the ones that are doing drugs, that write all the best music. You know, in Silicon Valley, I've heard they're microdosing LSD all day, every day of the week. These guys are churning out the most brilliant ideas and software applications. So the next time you see someone and you think this guy's nuts, even someone roaming the streets, I see him around here all the time. Be careful, because you never know. That could be the guy or the girl that's going to cure cancer or unlock some unknown mystery of the universe. But right now, they're on methamphetamine, or they're on amphetamines, wandering the streets, getting drunk and drinking coffee because maybe they're stuck on a problem. So here's to the crazy people, man. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, this is a fantastic book. I'm gonna spotlight. I'm gonna show you several more of the stories over the coming weeks. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to share Paul Erdos with you guys, and I hope you're doing well. I hope this is entertaining. Anyway, that's all. Have a great day, and I will see you in the future.